they are not only just best friends, not only Jen Gagers together, but also survivors, as myself, of domestic violence. This is Steenie and Jessica, aka JBray, on TikTok, and we are going to let them tell their stories about domestic violence, about anxiety, depression, mental health, and just all the things that we have been through together in a sisterhood. And so, Steenie, we are going to shoot it to you and let you just kind of dive right in. So,
All
introduce
right.
yourself and just a little bit
So
about your
this is the
story.
part that I'm a little unprepared for. So I'm Steenie, also known as my government name is Christina. Um, so oh gosh, I'm not really prepared on where to start. This is the only part of the
I always tell
procrastination
everybody
that it's like,
start where your
where do
story
I
feels
begin?
like you need it to start. So it can be from the beginning, from childhood. It can
Okay.
be from now, just wherever you feel led to start from.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with that. So my parents got divorced when I was one, and my dad has never really been what he should be. So I did go with him on some weekends when I was growing up, and I had a great stepmom, which was great, but I have a great mom. So I didn't really need that. I needed him, and he was just never going to play that role. His side of the family did a really good job at keeping me included in all the things that they did and making sure I was invited to Christmas and whatever else I needed to be included in because it was never going to be him. And I think it really gave me like my dark sense of humor probably started there because I was always like, oh, it doesn't bother me, like brush it off. But deep down it bothered me. Um, but it bothers you in ways that you don't realize, I think. And then obviously like that led to my choice of men. And I don't think that I put that all together until I left my husband. And then I was like, oh, like that's where it started.
There's the root
Um,
cause.
like Yeah. So like I mean, we had a relationship. It was just not like your typical like father-daughter relationship. Like I don't think we even spoke a lot once I stopped going to his house every other weekend. Because when you're a teenager, like who wants to do that? Until I was old enough to drink. And then he'd meet me out at the bar and we'd have drinks. And or he'd come to the bar because I'd get in like a scrap and he'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like got along with all my friends and he was like the cool dad.
Yeah. He became more of
And
your
then I
friend
had
than your
kids and he
father.
was yeah. And then when I had kids, he was kind of the same way. Like he showed up for, the events that the pictures got taken at, but he wasn't gonna babysit. He wasn't gonna take them and do anything. Um, so it's just kind of like a guy that's in your life, not really like a father. Um, so when I met my husband, I had already had one child. And he had a child, and then we met, and he was like a gym rat, and he was literally a walking red flag. But to me, he was like a good-looking walking red flag, and
Yeah.
you ignore all the things that you're like, I know better. Like, there's a lot of things I'm like, when I look back now, I'm like, why did I ignore that? Like, but you don't see all of that until after. I can spot it now, but back then I was 25 and I was like, oh, this handsome man is like paying attention to me. And, you just like kind of fall into that. Um, and in ways that it's like almost like I wanted to prove to my friends and my family, like, oh, I have a kid and I can still do this. Like, look what I got. When really I'm like, this man lives with his mom and he doesn't have like a stable job. He was like um doing like what do you call it? Training, gym training and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but it was intriguing. It's not what I should have went for. I should have been like, where's
Right.
the banker? Where's the, someone that's settled and had a good job, went to college. Um, so we did get together and things weren't bad. It's not like there was like anything crazy. I got pregnant with our first kid, and it was after that that's when like more of the control, more of the stuff started. He did like bat me in my forehead once, and I remember, I'll never forget it. Like I remember like falling in my living room, sitting there and just like being stunned, like
Yeah.
what the
Did this just
just
really
happened.
happen? Yeah.
Yeah. And then even though it was in my forehead, it had like leaked down. So I ended up with like 2 black eyes, which, I covered with the makeup. And I was like, I have a newborn. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not about to, you know, uproot my whole life and try to figure this out on my own. I'm like, and it was he wasn't even like he was sorry. It was just, you made me do this. You brought it here. Like the blame went on me. And then afterwards, it was more of the he's sorry. And then
Right.
nothing like that happened for a while. But like looking back, more of the control stuff, um, the like you're constantly like looking to them for validation. We had another kid
We're
two and a
people
half years
pleasers.
later. Yeah, I'm definitely, well, yeah, I am kind of a people pleaser. Um, and so it kind of went like that for a while. And then he was very into church, another red flag. Not that everyone that's into church is a red flag, but it was, I told him a while, like, if I had listened to his mom, I would never follow Jesus because she only used the Bible for what fit her. And in a way, so did he. But I didn't see it from him then. I only could see it in her. But we went to church. We brought our kids to church. Um, Everything was based around church. Like we couldn't play sports on Sundays because we had church. And then the church was like really on us about getting married because that's what you're supposed to do. So I feel like there was a lot of pressure there. And in my mind, I'm thinking he still wasn't working on the table. He bounced, he did some other things. Like he brought in income, but I'm like, if we get divorced, like I'm screwed. Um,
Right.
but it was more pressure, more pressure. So we did get married, which I should never have done. Um, but we did. We got married, whatever. That was 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 2017, whatever that is. Um, and things just kind of like built up from there because now I was trapped and he knew it.
Yeah.
Like I married him, so now what am I gonna do? So like our fights would escalate, and I always say like I don't feel like I'm your typical like domestic violence victim because I do talk back. Like
Yeah.
I get upset and I'm not gonna run and hide sometimes, but it's almost like sometimes I could push it till I knew where the snap point was, and other times like nothing would happen and he would flip out. So
Right.
sometimes I did like say things or like try to push my like agenda, I guess, about certain things until the level of snapping because I like there was things that needed to be changed. There was things that he
Yeah.
did, there was actions that took place that like they just weren't right. But everything was based on he's the man of the house and he has the final say. And I should never question him in front of my children. And but he could question me.
Right.
Um, and so we ended up having like more problems because he was manipulating so much and his narcissistic behaviors were so much that my own kids would be on his side. So it's like I'm the one that like I'm not the physical discipliner. I'm barely a discipliner. Like I'm the one that would be like, your dad's gonna be home, like take care of that or you're gonna be in
Mhm.
trouble. But they would always take his side on everything. And it had gotten to the point where like they would tell me like, Mom, no, just keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, I shouldn't be keeping my mouth. Like there's definitely things that needed to be said or done. And it was like, nope, just keep your mouth shut and deal with it.
Do you think
So
they
things
did that
got
out of
harder
fear of
and there was a
him?
lot of thoughts. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. At that point, he wasn't, I don't want to say he wasn't, he was he did use physical abuse as punishment, but at that point it like wasn't overboard.
Right.
Um, but he was very strict in what he wanted them to do. Huh?
You mean with them, not with you?
Yes, with them, not me. Um, so he was very strict about what he wanted, and he wanted everything followed his way, and that was that. Um, we have had a couple fights that got a little more out of control, and he'd turn them around on me. there's definitely been moments of like being in the car and him being like in a complete road rage where he gets out of the car. Me and all the kids are in the car. He gets out of the car and he's yelling at the person behind us. And all I'm thinking is, we're going to die. Like, we're going to die. You don't know who you're getting out and like yelling at. Like, what if they come up and shoot us? Like,
People
and
are
there's,
crazy
been
in
moments
the
where me
world
and
these
him.
days. Yeah, road rage is like a really big thing that ends
No.
up turning into major violence. It seems like to them it's not
Yeah.
a big deal, but it is a big deal, especially if your kids are present.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like they had seen him act like that, and like it was to the point like it wasn't shocking for them. It was just, everyone catered to dad's mood. Like if dad's in a bad mood, everyone's, walking on eggshells. And that's
Right.
like literally how we lived life. Like everything was based around him. Um, I want to say they didn't really see, like we've had fights that they didn't see, or a lot of times if he did something, I would immediately leave the situation. So like there's been instances where like we're in the kitchen and he got pissed off and like backhanded me to the face. My nose is gushing and I just walked out the kitchen door and walk outside and like in the backyard. So like my kids aren't seeing me with blood rushing out of my nose.
Right.
And they may or may not have know what happened. They just know mom's not in there anymore. Um, we've had issues. There's like so many. It's ridiculous. We've had issues in the car. Like we're driving to a wrestling tournament, and we almost went through a puddle, and my window was down, and I kind of snappy was like, "Oh my god, be careful! Like my window's down." And he was like, "Boom!" Like, why can I not tell you to be careful? My window's down. Like I don't want to be covered in wet water, and now my nose is bleeding and I'm like trying to get baby wipes and fix my face before we go to this wrestling tournament where we act like we're perfect couple. And like my oldest has made comments about it. Like he goes, on Facebook you look like the perfect family, and I'm like, I know, because on Facebook you post all the good things where you're like,
Yeah.
look at me, look at our blended family, we're so cute. No.
Yep.
But I
We
felt
all do
like,
that.
what else am I supposed to do? Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to be doing with that? Trying to think. So, I mean, things were definitely not great, but like everything that I would Google, I'm like, I never felt like I had enough that I would be able to get away. And he would comment, like, if I left, he would kill me, and
Right.
that he would take the kids. And at that point, I'm like, if he takes the kids, like, they're all going to be on his side anyway. Like, they're never going to vouch for my side. So I just stayed and dealt with it and like tried to help, like, tell the kids, like, do this, like, make sure your room is clean, make sure this is done, and like kind of get on them. Like he has a son and daughter that lived with us as well. And like I, found a vape in his son's room, and I'm like, you need to get rid of that. And so like my younger son now gives me kind of a problem about it. He's like, you didn't do anything to Aaron when Aaron had a vape. And I'm like, well, I didn't want his dad to kill him. So I just
Right.
kind of like get rid of it. I'm like, it's a little bit different where now I'm finding stuff like that. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
And so it was just like
and I
a
can see for
lot.
him like what he's saying, but you're trying to control the situation because you're trying to control the outcome. You don't want him to be given a reason to be triggered, especially around the kids. So
Mm-hmm.
you're making excuses and not necessarily reacting in the way you would normally react because you don't want them to get in trouble because you don't know how far he'll take it. But now it is different.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's
Yeah, not
mama.
just me.
Now it's not,
It's
it's
a
a
whole
situation.
different world.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
and so like like
kids
I
are
said,
kids.
like so over the years, like I can't even tell you how many black eyes I've had. I've had plenty. To the point that like my eyes are a different level. And like I probably should like see a doctor that can like look in up here and see if there's like anything broken, because it is like a little off, but I just never looked into it because I never went to the doctor. I just makeuped it up and went on with my day. And it was always just that, like face or mouth, never really anywhere else. And then the year that I left, I call it like, it was like the year of the exit, basically. I don't even know what it was like, he was calm, scary calm. He was like laying in bed, and I had come in, and he was like talking to me about how like I'm not going to disturb him and he's going to get his sleep and this and that. And I like just normal voice said something, and he got out of bed and put his arm behind like this and choked me to the point I passed out. And then picked up my body, put me on my bed, and like as I'm coming to, he's telling me how he's gonna kill me and I'm gonna end up dead if I don't stop my bullshit. Which he's dumb because we have cameras in our house because he wanted them. Like I don't know, cameras in the house creep me out. I don't like the idea of like who else is watching me. But
It's just another form
it
of
was his
control for
camera,
him.
Yep, he wanted the cameras in the house. And so I was able to like go in the settings and save the video and then hide it in my phone. But then I was petrified. Like I became a freak about my phone because I'm so scared. If he finds my phone and finds out that I saved this video, like I'm definitely dead. But he would like not think that I would do that. I think he thought that his control was strong enough. And you know, like I did like research, like, okay, strangulation, like what are the charges? What am I gonna get? Trying to just see like what my options were because I'm not leaving unless he's getting like time because I'm not going to go do the whole court thing and then you have my kids and then I'm not there to protect or do anything. So I needed it basically like I didn't think I had enough. And then we went on vacation at the end of June into July because he's obsessed with hiking. So we went to Arizona to go hiking, which now I probably will never hike again a day in my life because I'm like, I want to go on vacation and go to Disneyland. I don't want to go. I mean, it's great. Like, it's pretty, it's great. But when you do it, that's the only vacations you take are hiking in 100-degree heat.
What
it just
he
kind of
wants
loses
to
its,
do. Yeah.
yes, yeah, what he wants to do. And honestly, I was a little bit scared because I'm like, he's going to always throw me off a cliff. Like, we're going to go on this vacation. Like, and I told my friends, I go off a cliff. I go off a cliff, y'all know. Like,
yeah,
you know who
this
did
was
it.
not an accident. I did not trip and stumble.
And so we had gotten in an argument in the hotel room, and his daughter was in the shower. His son was like on the other side of a wall, but both our boys were in the bed right there, and he did the same thing, choked me from behind. I didn't pass out, but I was pretty close, and I was literally just begging, like, or trying to beg and like hitting him with my hands. Because I was like, he's gonna kill me right here. And he did end up letting me go, and then we went outside, and so we're outside this hotel literally fighting for like 3 hours. And I'm like, we were either in Utah or Arizona because that's like where we were staying. But I want to say we were still on the Arizona side because he knows Utah is really strict with their domestic laws and he could get some time out there. So I really think we were probably still in Arizona at that time. And he did, you know, like a lot of my begging, like, I'm sorry, you know, like having to beg that I'm wrong and I won't do it again and this and that. And so we did end up going back inside. But, you know, then I'm Googling and I'm like, he never choked me in the 14 years that we were together until May. And now it's the end of June, beginning of July, and he's choking me again. Like, this is escalating. Like, I'm going to end up dead. So, like, I knew it was escalating.
This time, so that's really
well. They had their eyes shut, so I thought they were sleeping because their eyes were shut. After everything came out and he was arrested, both my kids ended up telling me they were awake. They knew everything that happened. They could spit all that. Like, it's not like they like lied and said they're awake. They were talking about things that he was saying. Like, so they were definitely awake. And I'm like that's terrible. Yeah. So to make like to make our life a little crazier, we had come back and his oldest son's mom had a baby, and she has some like drug and issues, and so CPS comes to our house wanting us to take this baby. He wants to take this baby. All my kids want to take this baby, and I'm like, I'm going to be the one taking care of this baby. But right. How am I going to be the only one that says no? Because then I'm going to hear all of them like, mom said no. Um, or they would have just decided. So we did end up taking her. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's funny, but I don't know like what the word is. Like her own mom said like she feels like her daughter saved us because then we were both home. We had 8 weeks home with this newborn baby, and he had paternity leave, and I had maternity leave because you can get that when you foster a
Mhm.
child. And so that was like 8 weeks of being home, and the kids are off of school. Like we don't ever have that much time, all of us together. So it basically escalated everything in the house. Not to mention, I'm the one staying up every time this baby has to eat every, 2 to 3 hours in the night. I'm the one up. I take the baby everywhere. The kids loved her and they were
Yeah.
really good with her. He was good with her, but I don't know. Like he was just like, I don't know if he was just like really stressed at the time. He had lost weight and um it just made a lot of things harder. So like a lot of things were like starting to come to light, and I was like kind of on TikTok scrolling, like, am I a narcissist? Because he always told me I was a narcissist and I was crazy and I'm bipolar. And I honestly believed a lot of that. Because there is some things that like when he would name certain things like that I do that a narcissist would do. So I was like, maybe I am. And then I started watching videos on TikTok and I'm like, no,
That's me.
no, that's reactive. That's like most of what I'm doing is reactive abuse. And he fits every freaking category of being a narcissist. Um, so I was like really glued in on that. But then now I'm like, well, now I have this baby. Like I'm stuck now because I'm not like, I don't want to be like, oh, I can't take care of her or like what happens with that. So it was just kind of like go through the motions. The younger ones had like some fights and that caused some drama on us. And then we ended up having one big fight. It was on, well, we fought on a Sunday and then it like leaked over into Monday. So he had just went back to work. That was his first day back to work. I wasn't going back to work till Wednesday. And he came home and things just started. So the baby was in another room and he had taken the kids downstairs to like work out. And I took my younger son's phone, which kind of started it. So my younger son was like on his side, like wanting his phone back. Um, and I ended up taking his phone and I like held it to my chest and I crouched down and their dad like jumped on my back. And I don't even remember all of it. His daughter tried to harm me because I was fighting with her dad and he kicked me in the chest. So, I mean, obviously I was in pain. And then he took the boys and went to wrestling practice like nothing happened. Um, his oldest son had had enough. He and I brought him to a friend's house and I let him stay there. And then he had come home and I had a girlfriend here, so he like didn't talk to me. And I was like, was leaving it like that. He got up, he went to work the next day, kids went to school, and I messaged her and another friend because my chest was hurting and I was like, I have a heart condition, so I was kind of scared.
Yeah.
Like, why is my chest hurting? Like, I probably need to go to a doctor, which means I have to like talk to someone, which was kind of like I knew like if I open my mouth now, there's no turning back. Like
Right.
this is it. So I kind of texted them like something that said it but didn't, like just kind of like opening the floodgate a little bit, and they're both like, "What? What is going on?" And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So they contacted one of my other girlfriends. She came here. She's like, "Come on, we're going urgent care. Let's go." So we went to urgent care. I had the baby with me and urgent care was like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. You at minimum need a CT scan. Like we can't do that. You need to get that checked out, especially with your history. I'm like, okay. They wanted me to go by ambulance. I was like, yeah, no, I'll drive there. I'm good. And then they were like, then have the cops meet you there. I'm like, okay. So I called the CPS caseworker for the baby, and I basically was like, all the things. Like, this is what I think. This is what's going on. I'm going to the hospital. I'm making a police report. This is what's happening. She's like, okay, like, very nice, like, kind of walked me through it. So we went to the hospital. They were great. They put us like, I have my own room. They don't put you with anybody else. They're all very sweet. It was going okay until the doctor came in and said that they were going to admit me because I had bruising on my heart, and they needed that bruising level to go down before they would feel comfortable with releasing me. And I freaking stopped like a baby because I was like, I don't want to stay in the hospital. Like, what? This was not like, that was over what I was expecting. I was like, I just need you to tell me I was okay and like, let's go. So then I had to stay there for 2 nights, which was like torture. So a cop had come and talked to me. I played the video for him of my husband took me to the point that I passed out, and he told me I had nothing. So I was like, oh, okay. So he was only going to be arrested on like a harassment, basically. So I was waiting to hear like when they went to the house and arrested him, and they arrested him. And then only one kid knew. They woke the one child up, talked to him. He lied to them, and then they left with him. So my friend came back here to spend the night with the baby, and the baby was all set up to start daycare the next day anyway. So brought the baby to daycare, and she had spent the night here. None of the kids knew anything except for the one, and he didn't open his mouth. He just went to school like nothing happened. So they just thought like their dad must have got up and went to work early. They had no idea. And don't question why mom's still not home. Like I never came home. I went there and I was at the hospital, didn't talk to any of them. When he got arrested, he must obviously knew that I had pressed charges. So he called me from the jail with his crying bullshit. And I was like, no. And he was like begging, don't do a full order. You could do a partial, then we can work on things. Then we can see each other. And I was like, no, I don't want you anywhere near me. I want a full stay away. I want absolutely nothing. Like, I'm like, it's done. Like, I need a full stay away. So like he was able to get out because the next day they just released him. And we have stuff on our phone so I could see where he is. And he's literally like going by my house, going by my kid's school, going by my house, going back to the park. And so like I'm trying to call the schools, like, don't let my children go to their house. I'll get them picked up. And they're like, I don't have any paperwork to even say that, but they knew that like CPS and detectives had come to the school to talk to the kids. So I think they trusted that enough to just take my word for it and send them home. He ended up getting served with papers that basically said there was a 10-day stay away. He wasn't allowed near any of us for 10 days. A detective did come talk to me in the hospital. And then when I got out on a Thursday, like Thursday night, so that Friday morning, I went down to the detective's office to talk to them and like, give my side of the story. And then I started playing videos. So I did have a couple other videos of him. I have one, he hit me with a frying pan, chased me like with a chair. Trying to think, what did I run ahead of myself?
So many.
I know I had quite a few that I just like had been digging in my phone to find blurbs of just showing his craziness, basically, like one where he like pops me in the face. So I started showing him this, and he's like, can I have this phone? And I was like, yeah. And so they were going to go arrest him again. So then they used my phone to track him and find out where he was at that moment. And he got rearrested, and then he hasn't been out since then. The orders of protection changed. Obviously, there's still a full stay away. He has not allowed any contact with me or any of the kids. And then he was going to take it to trial, and then he ended up taking a plea. And I did go to his sentencing, and which was kind of ironic because like there's so much of a story that I can't fit in this small time frame. But my 16-year-old had left home like at 16. He was almost 17. He had left, and there was a lot of issues with that because he had begged me to leave, and I didn't. Like at first I was going to, and then I'd gotten scared and chickened out and didn't go. So there's a little bit like resentment on his part that I didn't listen to him and leave. So our relationship was like in a really rocky point, but my husband would always be like, oh, he's not going to ever amount to anything. He's nothing. So the day that he was sentenced is the day that my son was graduating to be a police officer. So I was like, it's kind of ironic that,
Yeah.
the one that wasn't going to make it anywhere is now a police officer. And they're going to jail.
Exactly.
And I did, like, I chat GPT'd and had a statement, and he used God so much that I'm like, I'm not going to use God in the bad way that he did, but I'm going to use it in a way that, like, all these things that you use God for, and look what's happening. And I basically said, like, I want God to have vengeance on you. And I hope that everything that you did comes back to you while you're sitting in your prison cell. So I was able to make it through that. My friends, went with me to his sentencing. And then I was like, okay, now for this part of life where it's really amazing to me the way your body works, because when I was going through it, I could remember every detail, everything that went on, like, completely. Whatever's happening, mom has it. And then when that shifted and I was able to, like, breathe and I don't have to live in that flight or flight moment anymore, my memory left with it. Like, I can remember everything from the past, but if you ask me what I ate for dinner on Monday, I have no idea. And I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, if you want me somewhere, make sure it literally goes in my calendar or I'm not going to remember and I'm not going to be there. Because if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. Like, even my kids, my therapy appointments, she's like, put it in your calendar. I'm like, yeah, because you'll be calling me like, girl, where are you? So, like, your memory is different. And I definitely went through a very long period of just, like, blah, like, no energy, didn't want to do anything. Like, I'm happy I'm out, but I don't know how to survive, like, this whole different world. I was never the disciplined person. So now I have 2 boys still at home that now mom's the boss. And they're like, what? Like, mom's never been the boss. So it was a big struggle of learning to, like, be the authoritative person and not just letting them walk all over me. Cause now it's like, well, they have so much trauma. So I want to baby them, but they can be terrible and you can't baby them. So it's like trying to find, like, the even ground. And he was arrested September 10th of 2024, and we're now, in 2026, and we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And trauma does a lot to you. And it's one thing that, like, I lived through it and, like, I have to heal, but it's worse that now my kids have to. And now I'm seeing what the effects of staying actually did to them versus, like, if I left earlier. But at the same time, like, I think to myself, like, if I left earlier, would he be in prison or would he be out? And then they'd still be dealing with him in everyday life. So I really don't know what the right answer for that is. I just know the trauma that they deal with is not fun. And then it's not fun for me. And I've come to, like, judge things a lot different. Because I think if I saw an out of control young teenager before all this, I would probably be judgy, like, get your kid in line. And now that I'm the one dealing with it, I'm like explaining, like, sorry, the 11-year-old that's mouthy has ADHD and trauma and he is disrespectful and, we're learning. So it's like, it's a whole new ball game that you're, like, learning to, like, adjust to, I guess.
Yeah. And there's no timeline for it. There's no timeline or time frame. It's all in it. Everybody's struggles are different. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's abuse was different. And, the mind of a child is not fully developed. So, I mean, they are having an even more difficult time processing their own trauma and your trauma on top of it. And, you're so much braver than you think. And at least you were able to recognize that when you said, I'm not the typical domestic violence victim, anyone can be a victim.
Yeah, because I'm mouthy.
And usually is the meat, which is what I am. I mean, I was an easy target because I didn't defend myself, never stood up for myself, never talked back, never did anything that the inside of my brain was telling me to. Like, I'm throwing you against the wall in my mind as I'm sitting here cowering away in reality. But just because you're strong enough to
mine was all mouth.
It doesn't, you still were a victim. You were just a little mouthier.
Yeah. Blame my dad
And the
because,
laws are so
and that's
different.
like where it kind of,
Yeah, go on.
that's like where it comes twofold because like shortly after, so my husband was arrested. I had gotten out of the hospital and my dad called me, and I didn't like, he didn't know the full story. He just knew like that I'd been in the hospital and something had happened with my husband. And I didn't get into full detail with him. I just basically said like he put his hands on me and I got admitted to the hospital. Now a normal reaction would be a worried parent. And he was like basically said that I deserved it. Like you probably talked back and deserved it. And I was so angry. Like those are like he said that to me and I don't know what he said after that sentence because I was so angry. And then we got off the phone and we didn't talk since then. And then he died in January. So the last words for my dad were that. And like it hurts now and I get a little emotional about it, but like dealing with his death and dealing with his like his funeral, because like his family was like, we needed to awake. Like a lot of people liked him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, great for them. Like, oh my God, you got all these friends that care that you're dead. And I'm over here like, okay, now I got to deal with all your freaking shit. That's more of a problem for me than anything. So like I went to, my family set up his services and I had to stand in the front of the line and everyone's hugging me and they're crying and they're like his girlfriend's daughters are sobbing and I'm like, I'm a fucking heartless bitch because I'm just standing here like, is it over yet? Can we be done? Like I want to get out of here. I don't want to be here.
Heartless bitch.
But I'm like, but I get like that's the dark humor. Like I can make dad jokes because there's not like feelings like I had this great guy in my life. And then afterwards, I'm like, I've been in therapy since then too. And I'm like, it's your fault. If you were a better dad, I wouldn't have been looking for attention. And the attention that my husband gave me when I met him wouldn't have mattered. And the red flags would have been like red flags. And I would have went the other way. So I'm like, you created that. Which is like a hard thing to come with. Now it's like trying to explain to my kids, like they don't love therapy. I mean, sometimes I think they like it. Sometimes they like who they have, but it's not like, yeah, I have therapy today. They're not like excited for it. But I keep like trying to tell them, I'm like, your dad wasn't always a bad person. Obviously, bad things happened in his childhood and he never fixed them. I said, so bad things happened in your childhood and we are going to fix them so that you don't grow up and turn into him. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. Which is like a hard thing to say because some of their actions, I'm like, and we've had to have like serious conversations like in therapy where I'm like, when you come in my room and you're loud and you don't want to let me leave the room because you're trying to make your point, I go, I'm no longer a parent. I'm instantly triggered because that's what your dad used to do. And I no longer can act like a parent should act because my brain is 20 steps ahead of you and I'm already in panic mode and you're yelling and my brain is just going like, and I can't be the parent I want to be because I'm flipped. Now I'm just as flipped out as you are. I said, I need space. Like, if something goes wrong, I need you're going to go to your room and cool down. I'm going to cool down. And then we can have a conversation. But you can't come barging in my room and not let me leave because that's panicky for me.
Yeah. I mean, and some things are genetic even. And there's nature versus nurture. And they saw it growing up even more so than, you realized at the time. So they lived it. And it's even though they're old enough to know right and wrong, when you are in such a violent situation, even if it's not completely portrayed on you, and you're seeing that, you absorb that, your psyche absorbs that, and you rationalize yourself that it's okay. And then just to get mom to hear me, I have to scream, I have to yell, I have to, and then you're like you said, cowering, and because you're being triggered and you're being abused all over again, in your mind. And so having them in therapy is wonderful. And I'm so glad to hear that because a lot of parents do make that mistake and don't. I didn't get the therapy I needed as my teenage years. I mean, in 13, I was in a an inpatient psychiatric facility from suicide attempt at 13. And then after that, I never went to therapy again until my 20s when I brought myself. And I had great parents, but that era of time as well, it was taboo. And to have to say that your child has these type of problems or that has tried to kill themselves, and what kind of parent does that make me, and how are people going to look at me? And I don't want them to look at her like she's crazy, so I'm not going to put her in therapy. I'm not going to. They made mistakes that they've learned from as well. So that I'm glad to know that you are pushing for that, and that is something because they're gonna thank you for that later, for sure.
Yeah, I
From the
think some of
13-year-old
it
girl who
is
didn't get
too
the
is
help.
that New York State does things kind of like some of it I agree with and some of it I don't. Like obviously we've had to go to court over this stuff on the family end of it to like try to remove his rights, but they were against me too, like when we first went because I didn't speak up. So when we first went, like I had already talked to CPI, so I knew that I had to go to this, but the kids were with me. Like that was already established. And then I get a lawyer, and this lawyer tells me that I might not leave here today with my kids. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, they take them away, like, and we'll put them in foster care until you get your shit together. Usually at the first visit, I go, they didn't tell me that. Like I was freaked out. And then when we went in, they did end up saying that the kids were going with me. But I have a neglect charge that is almost gone, pending because I didn't speak up and my kids were able to witness these things. So I've had to go to court since then, still currently go. And like everyone, like the kid's lawyer, my lawyer, the judge, everyone was for like me not having this charge because everything they've asked me to do, I've done it.
Right.
CPS was still kind of like, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." But you know, we like kind of pushed that, like, I've done everything. Like everything that's come back to them has been, I do with excellence. I don't argue. I'm on time, which isn't crazy because I'm not on time for anything else.
Right.
But I was on time. I'm on time for that.
Importance of that. Yeah.
You know, when it matters. And so I did end up with like a 6-month conditional. So next month I am free. But like this whole time I've had to have 2 CPS visits a month where they come to your house. And even though they know like I'm not the bad one, they just literally have to do their, you know, due diligence that, you know, the kids are fine, which now it's basically, it's like a friendly visit at this point. They're like, hi kids, anything going on?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
bye.
It's
Like
still
it's, you know, but it's still like, why do I have to have CPS coming? It's been almost 2 years. Like I'm ready for y'all to go. I like you, but not that much.
and that is
And
so
so like
crazy
next, you
because
know,
Texas is such the opposite. Texas, I was involved in what's called CASA, which is a court appointed special advocate, which means I worked with CPS but on a volunteer basis, and I was the voice of the child in the court system when they were taken away from parents. But Texas is all about family reunification so deeply that that's their number one goal, no matter the instance. No matter when I'm fighting, saying it is not good to keep these kids with the family, this is the goal. Period, said and done until they prove different. So it's such the opposite of what you went through. And when I went through my domestic
I still feel like they
violence
are like,
charge,
they do seem like they're still like a, you know, reunification state.
yeah. But you
But
never would have
I'm
had
like,
any
what
charges
happens
like
if
that down
what
here.
happens
It's
if these
crazy.
kids, I'm like, what happens if these kids grow up and have a kid and then what? I can't get their kid if something happens to them because you have this neglect charge on me from
Right.
me being abused.
Yeah.
So like that was difficult, but next month it should be gone. Like everything is good. And they told me like in my first interview, they were talking about, you know, do you think you'd ever go back to your husband now? And I looked at them like they're on crack. I'm like, no. Like
No.
I have been waiting for this. Like I have been checked out of this relationship for a long time. I just didn't have the key out. And they're like, okay,
Yeah.
good. Because I'm just warning you, if you go back, we will take your kids. And I'm like, that's fine, because I ain't going back.
Right.
So like we are almost like at the end of what we need to do. And I did have to see like one of their therapists too, and she was great. She's like, I'd let you go early. She's like, you know, you're on the right track. And she's like, but we see parents that aren't. Like they want the other parent to come back home. And I was like, no, like we're not going there. We're done. So now it's just like, you know, the how to move on part. And I know like Jess says, like, I just like dove into TikTok. I don't even know. Like I spent hours because I wasn't working. I was out on disability. I spent hours on TikTok, scroll, and found Jen's room. And she was smaller then, obviously. And she just done this thing like leave a purple heart in the chat and let's engage on each other. If we get 4 people, blah, blah, blah. And so I started doing that. And she messaged me and she was like, you want to work together? Because you're like bing, bing, bing. And I was like, yup. So like I jumped right in and then, you know, like we started talking on the phone and like I was a team lead and you know that was 8 months ago and here we are, but it keeps my brain busy because I can't sit still. Like my house, like my room is a chaos mess right now because you know I get all these samples in, but if I just sit around and have nothing to do, like I had a hysterectomy last year and it was supposed to be 3 weeks of rest and I was like crawling out of my skin because I'm like, I have to do stuff. Like my brain, I think too much if I'm not constantly doing something.
Yeah. You sit within it instead of learning how to grow from it and work on it. You just sit in it. And when you sit in it, that's the worst thing to do. And I tend to be a sit in it person sometimes. It's like one side of the spectrum. Or the
I can like, yeah, like, I wish that I got the like, let me, you know, get manic and clean my whole house side of it because I don't have that. I just have the like, I still have to stay busy, but I can stay busy on social media or something else versus like, I want to get out of this house. I want to go do something. Like we plan girls' days and I look forward to them. Like I need that. I need that. Let me get out. I don't have a husband down my throat about what I'm doing. I can have a good day with my girls and then I can come back to the chaos that is my life because yes, things are better that I don't have the husband, but obviously these 2 children are still very hard to deal with. But the friendships that I have and like going online and talking to other people and other people that are like, you know, yeah, my kids are wild and crazy too. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I get a lot from her because obviously she went through it first. And so I'm like, did the boys do this? Or I'll remember some of what her boys went through. And now my boys are going through the same thing and like trying to do it maybe a little bit different or doing what worked for her and will it work for me?
That's support.
And then like even like recording this and you sending it out, like the amount of people that are like, me too, me too, me too. It's like,
yes, that's what I was saying to my husband. I was like, wow, the engagement's wonderful, but I never would have thought all the Me Too's. So many Me Too's.
I was
And
shocked.
it's like
Yeah,
many stories
I was
to
very
tell.
shocked.
So many. It's not the club you want to be a part of, but it's the club that we belong to. And speaking your story is very freeing. I always say I feel the most free on my podcasts because I am in control of myself. I am able to use my story to help others, to allow them the safe space to share their story. And it feels freeing. It gives me a sense of control in my life when my life seems so out of control most of the time. When I press record and it counts down to 5, like I am such a confident person who can speak out, who speaks up. And then sometimes, when it's over, then sometimes I go back into my little shell sometimes, but I'm a lot better than I was. But using your voice is one of the strongest and freeing things that you can do, especially when it's standing up for something that you personally relate to. Like
it's that part.
Yeah.
It's that part that you said right there. Like I can get on here and I can talk to you. I go live and I'm like, I talk to people and I'm like, I wish you weren't part of this club, but you're welcome here. And I feel like a confident person, like, but I'm not like this in real life. I'm not, I don't like to go to the grocery store. I have terrible social anxiety. Like, I only want to go to the store if somebody's going with me. Otherwise, I will pay the extra money to have Walmart bring my groceries.
Me too.
I will beg my boyfriend to go to the store and pick up my kids' prescriptions because I don't want to go in there by myself. Like, it gives me horrible anxiety to go by myself. I don't, but you wouldn't guess that when you see me online and you talk to me. Like,
Same.
I'm a homebody. And then my boyfriend will say, he goes, you literally would love to be home 24/7, except the, 1 week in a month when you want to go see your friends. And I'm like, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. But my house is my safe space, especially in the marriage I'm in now. My husband's my best friend. We have moved back to my hometown. We live on the same connected property as my parents. My parents have over 100 acres of land, and so they kind of like deeded so much to like each child. I'm the first child that moved back home, so it's just so different now. Like, I never thought I ran from here when I was 18. I wanted to leave this country so bad. I hated country life and the simplicity of it. I was the black sheep of the family because I wasn't the good little country girl like all my cousins were, or my brother and my sister. And I hauled ass and did not want to come back. And now I would want to be nowhere else. And I'm always home, but usually because of anxiety and stuff, and I had to medically retire, so I'm literally home 24/7. But also, I found a safe space here as well, so it's not just me drowning in like loneliness. It's not, but I don't get out near as much as I should because I can't drive anymore. It's part of the medical reason why I had to
I wish I
retire.
could drive.
Yeah, so literally here 24.
I hate driving.
I hate driving anyway.
I'm
So
the
it doesn't
worst.
bother me that I can't drive.
I'm like, beat me up.
Yep. Come get me. Y'all want to
Doesn't
see me?
drive
You'll have to come
anymore.
get me. And I live in the country, so there's no Uber out here. It's not like New York. So what would be
Yeah, no,
the
I
one
despise
bit
it.
of advice you would give to someone who's in the situation now, currently living, a life of narcissistic abuse, physical, mental, emotional, wherever their stage is? What would you want to say to yourself?
That you're not crazy. That all the things they say to you and try to make you feel like you're crazy or you're the narcissist or you're the problem, you're not. And you have a really hard time seeing that until you're on the other side.
And never stay like I hear it from almost any person I've ever talked to that's a woman of domestic violence, that's a mom. I was staying for my children. I didn't want to leave because of my children, or I couldn't leave because of
Yeah.
my children. Your children are affected a lot more than you notice, a lot more than you think. And
Yeah.
if you can
I
find
wish
a
I
way
had
to
left.
get
Like, I
out.
wish I had left after that first hit back when my son was a baby. Take the embarrassment that you just had baby number 2 and now you're going to have 2 baby daddies, and who cares? Because
Exactly.
they would have been better.
But you will have grown. The only thing about it, and it's so sick to have to think of it that way, but you will be such a stronger person and a better mom, and for with because you're never going to let this happen again. You are so strong. You were already trying to stand up for yourself. You just were defeated by a major narcissist, manipulative, controlling person, and you kind of lost yourself for a minute. But you found yourself and you found your voice. And not saying things can't happen to strong people. Obviously, they can. But I could see you kicking a man's ass before you let a man touch you again.
Yes.
You're a
I'll
strong,
go down
strong
fighting.
person. Oh yeah. So JBray, Miss Chess over there, who's been silent, who's got to be silent and absorbed. First of all, what was it like for her? Like you being her friend. So let's before we get into your story, just let's talk about the friend side of it. Being the friend that knows about what's going on behind closed doors. How are you able to be there for your friend and also not allow it to affect yourself when you're also someone who's emotionally going through things yourself?
Well, first of all, I have to start out by saying she wasn't always my friend. This is a story that we talk about and we laugh about all the time. So we've known each other almost 20 years. We both work for the same company, and I literally hated this bitch when I first met her. I could not stand her.
I was 21.
Yeah, I would see her coming and I was just like, ugh, cannot stand her. I don't really know exactly like what happened to change that, but I thank God every day that it did. Because I literally don't know what I would do without her at this point. Um, I had so before everything like broke with my husband and I knew a little bit of what was going on, but I thought it was like a one and done type thing. Like she had told me. So I guess I kind of thought that, it wasn't happening anymore because she wasn't talking about it. And, he seemed like a genuinely good guy. He had everybody fooled. Um, like kind of like what she had said, fake book. I call it fake book because everything is fake. People only post the good stuff. So they did truly look like they had a happy family. So when she had texted me, and this will make sense more when I tell my story, but she had texted me and said something about your kids saved you or something along those lines. Who is going to save me? And I said, what are you talking about? You better tell me right now, because I knew what she meant, but I was like, what is going on? But I was already over time, like, probably at that time, like 8 years removed from my situation. So it didn't affect me. I just felt terrible for her, but I knew what was coming. I knew the emotional roller coaster that was coming. I knew the effects of the kids that was coming because I was still dealing with it. And I still deal with it now. And my older boys are 19 and 20 years old, and I'm still dealing with it. So I'm thankful that could be there for her. I'm thankful that, unfortunately she had someone that had already dealt with it, meaning me. I didn't, nobody wants to be like a part of this club, like you said. But I'm just thankful that we've had each other because, like I said, I would be lost at this moment without her in many ways. So, but yeah.
You can feel y'all's friendship through the screen, even. Like, I love that y'all have. And even
Me
if
too.
y'all hadn't been through the same similar things, I mean, well, maybe you still would have hated her and thought she was a bitch, but y'all were meant to be best friends. Y'all were meant to be best friends. And you can just feel that connection that you guys have. And it's very special. It's very special. And
It is.
I'm blessed to have good friends too, but not everyone does. And when a lot of the people that I've talked to just went through it so alone. And that's the hardest part, is to know that you feel like you have no one, and reach out. When you're in that situation, you just got to find that somebody. You have to have that inner support system. You never want it to get to a point where you feel like, hurting yourself, or, taking your own life, or just doing things that would totally remove yourself from the situation. I always say, if you feel like you have no one, at least call 988 if it ever gets to that point. There's always services or things available, but it's always better when you have that actual person, that real connection. Real friendship, means a lot more than bloodline a lot of the times. And y'all are sisters.
100%.
100%. So give us a little insight about yourself, ma'am, and what your story is.
My story kind of starts similarly with my biological father, who I did not know most of my life. So I was raised by my mom until I was 5 years old. I always knew about my father, but I, figured out at a very young age that he just basically gave me up and didn't, he wrote me off and then had a child with someone else. So I always kind of carried that in the back of my mind. Kind of like what she had said, like, you don't let it bother you on the outside, but it kind of always does on the inside, kind of thing. My mom married when I was 5, and the man that raised me, who is my dad, who I call dad, we did not have the best relationship growing up. I always felt very unseen, and kind of like I wasn't important, I guess you could say. Like, I didn't always feel the love. Like, when I was growing up, my mom was one of those people that like never said I love you. And I think that just came from, she just recently passed away in November. And I think now that thinking about things and knowing, talking to my dad more and talking to the family more, like I realized that a lot of that came from how she was raised. So, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, I always swore, like my kids are going to know that I love them. My kids are going to know that they're important, like because I just grew up feeling like I wasn't, like I had a father that wrote me off, and now I have a stepfather who acts at the time how I felt like I was a burden. Do you know what I'm saying? So, although I don't think that right now we're closer than ever, super close, but that's how I felt when I was growing up. Like I was a burden. I moved out as soon as I could. When I graduated high school, I moved out. I was with my first husband at the time, and I was raised very strict. I wasn't allowed to do a lot. So I didn't really want to settle down. He had a child at the time. I was not the best. Well, we'll just say that I wasn't the best person that I could be with that man. We did get married when I was 22. Um, he was very controlling. He was never abusive, like physically. He was very controlling, very possessive. He would monitor like what I was wearing. Like if he thought my shirt was cut too tight, like he had or cut too low, he made a comment about it. Wasn't really allowed to go out and do stuff with my friends. He would actually come there and like watch me to see what I was like up to see if I was, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So our relationship did not last. We were together 7 years total from the time I was 17 until the time I was 24. And that's when I got with my abuser, who I spent 12 years with. He was 12 years older than me. So I was 24, he was 36. And there was just something about him that I was so drawn to. And honestly, now, like, I couldn't even tell you why, but he gave me attention. He seemed interested in me. And that's, what I craved. I just craved that attention. So I had heard things through the grapevine. I had heard that he was a drug user. I had heard that he was abusive. Just like, with her situation, she saw the red flags waving and I heard about them, but, how bad could it be type thing.
Yeah.
Well, it was bad. So, um, he was a drug user. He smoked crack cocaine, and I eventually, because I so wanted this man's attention and this man's love, I guess you could say, I also started using drugs with him. Thankfully, it was a very short stint for me. He was 36 at the time. He had been using for over 10 years. He had told me stories about how he had overdosed and, like and then still picked up and continued to use. We ended up, like I said, my stint with that was very short, but during that time, a lot of things happened where I was put in predicaments where I had to do things with people for him to get his drugs. I don't really, it's like that part of my life never even happened because it was so long ago. Right. But when I stop to think about how scary that is, looking back, like I cannot believe that I was ever put in those situations where I had to do things for this man to get his fix.
Yeah.
He basically pimped me out, so that's what happened. And I lost so much financially and probably like emotionally and mentally in those 6 months that I partook in that situation. I lost my car. He would, give my stuff away to like, drug dealers and things like that as like payment. It just literally ruined my entire life. Like during that time frame, I lost a ton of weight. Now I wasn't like overweight when he and I got together, but I wasn't like skinny. But like I lost so much weight. I was barely eating. I didn't have any. I was literally counting change at the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread because all of the money went towards drugs. He had an older son at the time. And his son lived about an hour away from where we were living, and he wanted to move there. Like that was his thing. He wanted to go there and he wanted to move there. And, I had just split up and split up with my first husband. And I was like, you know what, let's go, let's start over. And I had a really scary experience right before we moved with the drugs, and I literally thought that I was overdosing. I begged him to call an ambulance to take me to the hospital, but he refused. Luckily, I am okay, but I really think that something was happening, to me. Like, to this day, like, I really think if I had kept going, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
So that scared the crap out of me, and I stopped. I never really picked up. I think I tried again like one time after that, and it was just never the same experience for me. I was too scared. I didn't want anything to do with it. But his drug use carried on. So we ended up moving an hour away. So now I'm away from everybody. The only person that I have is him. And that's where things, started to change. I got pregnant, and well, I think I was pregnant when I moved there, but I didn't find out until after we were already, moved and settled. And I ended up losing that baby. My water broke at 4.5 months, and I had to deliver a child that didn't make it. So prior to that, nothing had happened physically. But after that happened, there was an instance that I can remember where we had gone out to a bar with his friends, and something I said or did made him upset, and we got back to our apartment, and he just literally like he didn't hit me at that time. He didn't put his hands on me physically, but he was throwing things at me and screaming at me. And like, he threw things at me that hit me in my face and caused 2 black eyes that I had to go to work with the next day. And I'm standing in the mirror the next morning, like putting on makeup, trying to hide it. And, he says, "I'm so sorry," like things like that. I got pregnant again right after that. With my oldest, who is now 20. The night that he was born, he was born about 3.5 weeks early. And the night before he was born, he was out. My ex was out using drugs. I had no idea where he was. I didn't know when he was coming home. I didn't know, he would do this all the time. So I'm home, pregnant, about to have a baby, anytime now. And he's out doing drugs. I have to go get him because he's given our car away to a drug dealer. So the next day, his oldest son was at our house, and I thought I was going into labor. And I made a comment to him, because kind of like her, not as quite as bad as her, I was also a little bit mouthy at times. So I said something in front of his oldest son about how he had been out using the night before, and he threw me down in the bed and was choking me and told me that he was going to fucking kill me, and that I better shut my fucking mouth and all this other stuff. And then I progressively, my labor started, and I had our child that night. For a long time, that didn't happen regularly. I do think that my abuse was, I don't mean less than, meaning less important. I mean less often. His was a lot of emotional and mental abuse. He would call me a cunt like every other, second, it felt like.
Right.
And he would say these things in front of our children. I was a bitch. I was a cunt. Everything was my fault, like very narcissistic type of thing. I remember a time when we I had 2 children with him. They were 11 months apart. And I remember with the youngest at that time, I had him in my arms, and he came up and behind me, and he like grabbed the back of my head, and I like fell back, and I was almost fell with our newborn son. So this stuff, kind of happened on and off for years. He did get clean for like 7 years, and we ended up getting married during that time. While he was clean, because I was thinking, it's okay, like he's not using drugs anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another thing too, is that, yeah. And that's another thing too about me, is that I'm a fixer. I want to fix everybody. Because I want something that makes me feel good, and something that makes me feel important. And like, I want to fix you. Let me help you. I can, that kind of thing. So I always thought, I'm going to change him. He's going to be better because of me. but that was, never really the case.
My mom always told me, date men, not
as my
project. Maren.
right. As my kids got older, he didn't hold back, in front of them. He would push me, or he would yell, he would break dishes. I just went and saw my oldest son yesterday, who was moved out, and we were having a conversation about things that he remembers. And I'm just like, I can't believe the stuff that happened in front of you guys. And just like, it does affect your kids. It does. Even the things that you don't think that they know, they saw it, they heard it. And it's very heartbreaking to know that they had to see that and witness that. I'm just trying to think. I kind of lost track of myself, but so this kind of, he got clean for 7 years. We bought a house. Like I thought, things, we were moving along in our life. But at that time, not long after we lost or bought a house, I was just feeling I didn't want to be in this relationship anymore. I just didn't like, he just wasn't who I wanted to be. And I was just thinking, like, how can I get out of this? Like the emotional and the mental and the things that he would say in front of the kids, it just was wearing me down. In 2015, no, I'm sorry, excuse me, the end of 2014, I had weight loss surgery. I had gained a lot of weight from, having kids back to back and just, not taking good care of myself and everything. So I had weight loss surgery. He had weight loss surgery like a year prior to that. And I said, there ain't no way in hell you're getting skinny and I'm not. Like, I'm going to do it too. So, but as, I had that surgery. Yes. And I just felt so unseen. I had like lost all of this weight and I just felt like he wasn't even looking at me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I just wasn't happy anymore. He ended up relapsing in February of 2016. And then that really kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. I was like, I don't want this anymore. But we were still like trucking along, like I was there, but I was like checked out. And he just acted like nothing was going on, nothing was wrong. And then in March of 2016, he kind of snapped again. Like he hadn't touched me physically in a while. But what happened that night, is what sent him to prison. Also, not nearly as long as her situation. But it was also caught on a camera because he wanted to watch what was going on. So, the situation that happened was, like I said, caught on a camera in front of, and our kids were home. They could hear everything. What he got was a criminal sex act. Basically, he tried to make me perform oral sex on him, but he was grabbing me by the back of my neck, and like I had like a huge mark on my neck and everything. And again, it was caught on camera. He was berating me, calling me names, all the while that was happening. And I was just like down on the floor, like, sobbing. We had a roommate at the time, a male who lived in our basement. And before that situation happened, he was arguing with me. He was throwing dishes, and my roommate, spoke up and said, stop it. What are you doing? And they physically fought. And so I called the cops. And as I'm on the phone with 911, he's telling me he's going to kill me. And the police came. He left. The police came. They convinced him to come back. They talked to him. They said, we think it's best if you go somewhere else for the night, blah, blah, blah. So he left. He wasn't supposed to come back, but he did. And then that's when, everything happened with he and I. And my oldest son called 911 because he could hear me, screaming and crying. And he hung up when they answered. So they call back because you call 911 and then you hang up, they call right back. So my husband picked up the phone and they said, hello, this is 911. And he said, everything's fine. It was a mistake. and then hung up with 911. And then he is screaming at my kids, who called 911? Who did that? Why did you do that? And they were like, you were hurting mom. And he said, I wasn't. And they said, well, I thought you were. And he was screaming at them, bring the phone down here. And he was just swearing and screaming at them. I still to this day have the recording on my phone that I saved from the camera. And it's been since 2016. So I just hit 10 years in March, and I still have this. And I don't really know why, but I've watched it on and off. And the way that he speaks to those kids and the way he speaks to me is just like a literal monster. And so the cops ended up coming back because, that's what they do. They come back to check to make sure that it was truly okay. He's at the door trying to tell them it's fine, it's fine. And I'm behind them, him trying to say, no, it's not, no, it's not. And they said they made up something, or like, oh, we want to come back in and talk to someone, so-and-so. And so they came back in, and that's when I finally admitted, this is what happened. It's on the camera. They saw my neck. It was just like blazing red, like a handprint on my neck. And then they said, asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said I did. But if it hadn't been for my son, I don't know where I would have been. I don't know what would have happened. I do believe that he eventually would have done something to me, because things, he was, I do think that he has bipolar disorder. My oldest has bipolar disorder. I do think that he has that, and he just was very unstable. And I do think, he was using more than he let on also. But after he was gone, I was still just like a shell of myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have any family. I didn't lean on my family. My family is my friends. So my friends are who got me through it. I leaned on them during it. I had to do all the court and everything. And like CPS told me the same thing. Like, if you go back to him, we're going to take your kids. And I'm like, don't worry. I don't want that. I don't want that. But he was calling me from jail, and he was like begging me and telling me, you need to fix this. You need to fix this. You need to tell them that that's not what I meant to do. You need to tell them that I wasn't trying to do this and that. Tell them that we were fine. Tell them this, tell them that. And I said, I'm not telling them anything. I don't want this. You were doing that. You were trying to hurt me. You have hurt me, on and off for 12 years. You have made me feel less than. You have made me feel worthless. You have physically, emotionally, mentally drained me. And he just kept begging me. And then the letters would start. He only got 3.5 years, and he was sent to prison, but he would send me letters, and he would send me letters about God, and he would send me letters about how I need to do what's right in God's eyes. And I'm like, well, you didn't do what was right in God's eyes. You abused me, and God's not okay with that. We have a family we need to save, all of the stuff. Like, we need to save our family. And I said, no, we don't. You ruined our family. And I just felt like, we actually went to church together. Like, our families went to church together. And I didn't want anything to do with church, because he ruined that for me. He was using God as a weapon, using the Bible as a weapon. He had someone that he knew send me in the mail. And I literally threw it away. And I said, I'm sorry, God, I can't have this. I can't have this in my house. I don't want it. It comes from him. I don't want anything to do with this right now. And I threw it away. He would just try to contact me, and he wasn't even supposed to. I don't even know how the letters would come through, because he wasn't supposed to have any contact with me. So during that time frame, I did go to therapy a little bit, but I didn't feel like it was like working for me. Like, I didn't connect with a therapist, and I was more worried about my kids. So I kept my kids in therapy, and I therapized myself in other ways. And I would go out on the weekends, and I would, I was very active on online dating, and I found some other, like men that were walking red flags. Luckily, I didn't fall too deep with any of those. but I didn't do the work that I wish I had done, is basically what I'm trying to say. Like at the time, like I feel like I'm doing more work now, 10 years later, than I did when all of that happened. I didn't have something to take my focus. I just used it, like going out, and I would drink every weekend, and I would go out and, and I had just lost a bunch of weight, and I was, cute, and I was getting attention, and I liked it. And because that's what I had been looking for my entire life, is the attention. Yep. Luckily I did meet my now husband, and we have a 6-year-old that we had together, but it hasn't been easy. I dealt with a lot of the same things, like that she did with her kids. I still deal with it today. My oldest, unfortunately, is very much like his father in the way that he speaks. He thinks I don't like saying that he's a narcissist, but I do think he has very narcissistic tendencies. He thinks he's right. He plays the victim. He blames others. He doesn't take the blame on himself. And I have dealt with so many triggers just dealing with him and going toe to toe with him. I felt like I was going toe to toe with my ex-husband, and it would put me right back into fight or flight mode. And, so I've been free from my abuser for 10 years, but I don't feel like I've been free because I've still had to deal with a lot of this stuff. He just recently moved out the beginning of February. So from February to now is where I feel like I've finally been able to breathe a little bit, maybe not walk on eggshells as much. But I've dealt with the mental health stuff with both of my older boys: anxiety, depression, trauma, the PTSD, and then bipolar disorder, and trying to keep on meds and everything else. But I don't know. I just, it's been a long road, and I feel like I'm only now trying to put in the work to feel better and to get better. I'm very,
It's never too late.
Yeah, my husband now is the nicest person in the world. He's never even once called me a bitch, like never, like, and sometimes I find myself picking fights with him because I'm like, I don't, like that's what even after being apart, out of this for 10 years, I still have all of that in me. And I still, like he'll compliment me and I don't even know how to accept it because I was just hammered down so much by the previous man that I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel like I deserve the compliments or, things like that. I want them. I need them. I crave the attention, but it's like, I don't know how to accept it. I don't know how to feel worthy of it because of what had happened to me throughout my life, like with my biological father, my stepfather, and then, the previous men. I will say, because I know we have to probably wrap up soon here, but I will say that, I'm so thankful to her for bringing into the TikTok world and with Jen and Jen Gagers and the community that we have. It is literally amazing. And I'm so like, I wish that I had had something like that because like she just kind of dove right in after everything. Like, and I wish I had found something at the time that I was able to dive into, and maybe I'd be much further along in my journey of healing. But I'm just so grateful for this community, and I feel like her and I could have a very powerful voice together. Because we have so much similarity and just like, so many Me Too's out there, so many Me Too's and so many survivors. And I just feel like we need to take what we have been through and use it now for good. And I want to go live someday too, but everything is in my personal life is just standing in my way, one thing after another that I can't like get on a schedule to do so. But I want to create a space. I want to do like some kind of mental health stuff. I just don't know, where to start, how to start, because obviously my story is more than just domestic violence. It's about being worthy and being enough. And, that's the message that I want to spread to people, is that you are worthy, you are enough, you're worth so much more than that. You don't have to put up with someone that mistreats you. You don't have to put up with someone that puts their hands on you. Or calls names or belittles you or berates you. You're just worth so much more than that. And that's, what the message that I want to spread. And I want to, somehow, like I said, turn this into a good and help others.
And you guys are. And I can see so much in your future too. And maybe y'all start a podcast together or some type of something. You never know. I mean, I don't know what
We've
I would
actually
do if
talked
I
about
didn't have my podcast. Like I don't know what I would do, where I would be. And that I'm doing it is so crazy to most people that know me in real life because they're like, my self-esteem is horrible and it has been my entire life. My sense of self-worth and my sense of, pride for myself and respect for myself, which is why, I allowed things to happen to me as well. And I was always overweight. And when I met my ex, my abuser, I had just got down when I had weight loss surgery. I weighed 475 pounds and I got down to 160 something in less than a year. I was sick.
Wow.
So it wasn't a healthy way to do it. But I was really sick. But I knew I was beautiful at that point. I was like, why did I thought, I hate that it was always just about weight in my head. I thought that once I lost the weight, I would be badass and confident and this strong person. But I wasn't. I still craved all the attention and the affection and the love that I had never had from any man. And I have a great relationship with my dad now. And I did growing up. I have a great dad, but he was a very abused child growing up. He never was told he loved you. So he never told us that. And so I didn't feel it. Now I do. And now grandkids have changed him. My nieces and nephews have totally changed my dad. Now you do hear I love you. You do get hugs. You have a different dad relationship than you did when you were their age. But I craved it so bad. I clung to the first man that gave it to me. And I knew from the beginning I deserved better. He didn't have a job. He was living with his mom. Everything like y'all were saying. I mean, like everything similar about the same men we were dating. But he made me feel pretty and he made me feel seen, at least in the physical part of it. And I just latched on. I was like, this is what I want and I'm going to make it work. But then he took everything that made me have shame for myself and used it against me. Like, I didn't just get nobody's going to treat you like I do. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, so I have a lot of things that affect my hormone levels. And I can get like, facial hair sometimes, different things that happen that you have to take care of. And he was like, no other man is going to love you and put up with that kind of stuff. And that's gut wrenching because you're already embarrassed. It's already things like you're like, I'm gonna spend thousands of dollars on this laser. You're just doing everything you can to feel pretty all the time because your body works against you in ways that you can't control. That medication doesn't even always help. And he's like, he's targeting. You can call me a bitch all you want, but when you call me fat, you're hitting a different part of my self-esteem, and that's what he targeted until it became physical. And
Max.
I went through the choking thing is what sent him to prison too, except for, and I don't say I regret it because the only thing that I regret is my reasoning for things. I was still so small and so much a people pleaser and always wanted everyone to be better. When I did press charges, he did go to jail, but when we were going through the trial part of it, the you know, they were like, so you want to throw the book at him, right? Like whatever we can get max, right? And I said no. And I said, I think this man will be a good man if he could get off drugs. Can you mandate this man to go to rehab? I've tried for years. I've sent him 4 different places. Like I just can't. If he could get clean, I think he would be better. And she was like, I can't mandate drug, inpatient facilities until they've had at least 1 year of prison. He can go to prison for a year, then we can send him to a treatment program, and then he'll have to go to like a halfway house after that. So basically, it was only like 2.5 years, and that's what I said I wanted, and I really didn't. It wasn't totally coming from the place of me being so compassionate or empathetic because I am. It was still me people pleasing and not wanting to be the person that's sitting in prison. And mainly it was because his family's in my ear. Can't you just do the least amount? Why are you going to try? Why aren't you why are you pursuing these things? And I listened to that and did it for the wrong reasons. But I do think, as far as I know, because he did call after prison, which was crazy, but he was in the 12-step program. And so he had to make peace with his past and seek forgiveness from those he hurt. And so I took the call, and I think that traumatized me even worse. But being a people pleaser is definitely, I self-harm myself a lot more than can hurt me. I hurt myself more. So that's something I want everyone else to think about too, is that speak up for yourself and do what's best for yourself, your children, but to be the best for your children and your family, you have to do the best for yourself, and don't just allow people to make you feel small or not seen or less than, or feel like you have to put yourself aside to make them better, because it's not our job to fix everyone. Have compassion and empathy, but set boundaries and know your limits, because that's where I fail myself, is not having the boundaries and the limits, and then still allowing people to take advantage of kindness. I'm too tenderhearted. I wish could be the bitch. I act like I am a bitch sometimes, but it's all just a mask too. I'm not as strong as I always make myself out to be, but I'm also not as weak as I think I am either. I know I have a large voice and I speak up for others. I just have to learn how to speak up for Maren. I will fight battles for friends and family and strangers. I have stood toe to toe with a man in Walmart who was beating the shit out of his kid in the middle of an aisle. I'm not talking like a spanking, like, disciplining your child who's trying to steal candy. I'm talking like this man that had a belt and was straight up in public beating the crap out of his child. And I stood toe to toe with this stranger, putting myself in a harmful situation just because I needed to be the voice for someone else. So, but finding the voice for myself, that is what I have to work on. But my podcast and the things I do on TikTok really do make me stronger every day. And it's people like you guys and sharing your stories and knowing you're not alone and knowing how many people are still in the situations that we've escaped. We have to keep talking and pushing and being those there for others, because we can relate. We understand. We don't want people to feel the way that we have and do. So use your voices, and that you already are. And I see y'all doing something. I don't know what y'all gonna do either. These are podcasts. Maybe y'all write a book. I don't know. But doing it together is it's a good. I think it's actually good for you guys. Like I'm getting a different level of something with the truth table. This is my baby and mine, but having those guys and how we're so damn different. Like we're like the Golden Girls doing a podcast. We always say we're the messy, chaotic, unhinged, feral bunch that should have went to brunch together, but they started a podcast instead. Because Mike is like so funny. He's like the comedic relief. Me and him have banter back and forth together. Like I have the dark, sarcastic sense of humor too. And then he who over here is more, uplifting and faithful and brings more of the faith side into it and bringing that part of you out. And then Jewel is like, she's definitely the epitome of ADHD. She's like a big ball of glitter. She's a big ball of happy, but she's been through a lot too. And we all just really bounce and absorb off of each other. And we wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for the Gen Gagers. I think it's so crazy to look at it now and be like, y'all have been friends, known each other, even though you weren't friends for 20 years, you've known each other. So it's, oh, yeah, of course you're going to want to do something together. You have the same lived experience. I'm doing it with three strangers, basically. Like, but we felt it.
But we wouldn't have
and
known
find that
you.
voice
Do you know what I
together.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
we wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to do this with you without Jen. And like, I know she commented on the video that you posted of us. And I said, like, this is you, like you brought us together. Like, yes, we knew each other, but she brought me into this. And then we met you and like meeting all these other people that, are, saying me too. I've been through this, so.
making
It's
y'all's
really
voice
Jen.
stronger.
So,
Yeah.
thank you, Jen.
And she is such a strong,
I do want to say
strong woman. She's powerful voice.
He is. I do want to say like one thing before we end, because like I know we said like a fixer, and I started off with like mine didn't really have a good job, and her started in like a drug theory. But like I said, the worst year of my relationship, and I was with him for 14 years, and our worst year, he was working full time for being a peer advocate for mental health and drug use. So he would go meet up with people and get them into rehab and get them into programs to help them. And he was adored. Like he got awards, he earned extra money. He was so loved. When he got arrested, they literally had to have a meeting at work because they were all so upset. Like they couldn't believe that the guy that they knew could do the things that they were hearing.
Right.
So I just want like that to be aware that it's not just, a scumbag off the street is abusing you.
Right.
Your husband could be a doctor and abusing you. And
Yes. And never make those things excuses. Because like you said, to the world they weren't a piece of shit. They saw a different part of that person than we were given. I mean, he allowed that too.
I was always like, why can you be that at work, but you can't be that for your family? Like, why do they get that good version of you?
Absolutely. Like mine was wonderful with his family. I mean, they were so blind too. So blind. The world was blind. And that's what narcissists and manipulators do.
Yeah.
And that's why it is hard for a lot of people to even be believed in those situations. Because like you said, they're like, we see the good this man does. How there's got to be that something. And never make that blame on yourself. Because the world sometimes will make you feel that way. What did like your dad told you, and what did you do to deserve that? And no one ever deserves any type of abuse, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial. What No one deserves any form of abuse. So never condone that and say that I must have deserved it. I was mouthy, I'm bitchy, I have bipolar or whatever. Like none of that is an excuse for anyone to treat you that way. So, Miss JBray, just like I asked Steenie, what is your last word of advice to women that are in the situation now or who are recently removing themselves from the situation? What does JBray say? There's your name for it. What does JBray say?
I think that one of the biggest things that I would say is never minimize what you're going through, and don't compare yourself to others, because there was a lot of times that I would think to myself, my story isn't as bad as hers, so I didn't have it as bad as she did. And she would tell me it doesn't matter what our story is and how, it doesn't matter because it was just as bad as what I went through. Was it different? Yes, but it was just as bad. So my word of advice is don't minimize it. If you're being mistreated, then you need to get out, and you can get out and find support and find resources. And don't stay because of your kids, like you also said earlier, because it does affect them. And I could have talked for way longer, but I know, like I could have gone on and given more detail about what my kids went through and everything like that. But, for the sake of time, I just cut it to where I needed it to be. But yeah, so.
And
thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Maybe we should start like an online peer support group for domestic violence survivors.
Something.
You could do peer advocacy without a degree. I don't know. That's something if they're out there. Something. We got voices. You've got voices and they need to be heard. And like they were saying, like never compare. Never compare your trauma, your abuse. Everyone's is different. And don't, like we said a million times, don't stay for the children, but also don't stay. Just a snippet, like one of the things that I regret the most is that when I was with this man, they were my baby making years. And I've always knew I was going to be a mom. It was going to be the best mom in the world. And like your dream is like I was, I knew I wanted to go to college. I wanted to graduate college. I wanted to have a degree in psychology. And then I wanted to be a mom. It was always just a mom and a wife, a mom and a wife. And I was with this man, my baby making years, and we never got pregnant. And I was never able to after. So I am everyone's favorite aunt, everyone's, but like all my friends' kids are my children. I have fur babies, but I never got to live the dream of being a mom because I gave up myself because I was too scared to leave and too ashamed and, too like my depression was too bad. My self confidence was too low. And then I literally took away something. Maybe like they say, it wasn't in my cards. It wasn't in God's will. I can say all those things a million times, but still question why. And if I would have left and I would have spoke up for myself, I don't know if things could be different. And things would have changed. I would have met my husband sooner if we would have been able to have children. And that's my biggest regret. So just know that you guys, things can be affected for the rest of forever just by not standing up for yourself, getting out of situations that are not healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if you ever feel that way, speak up, speak out, find a support system, even if it's TikTok. There's lots of communities out there that will open their arms, ours being one of them. Like we've said several times, we're part of the Jen Gagers. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. Miss Jen RN these are some amazing, Miss Team Lead over here, and they amazing friends and family and community. And, we stand up for each other and we stand up for the small voice and the small guy, the little guy in the background. And that happens a lot. And I see a lot of rallying and support. And it's, if that's something you're looking for, then look into it because we have some flower power. You see the pink flowers. And come on by, join our family, and say I sent you so I can get some free flower power. But yeah, so I'm plugging it in, plugging it all in. But I'm so glad you got finally we were able to get you on here. You weren't scared. I can see you guys just blossoming. I can see y'all doing something together, using your voices for good and to help others. And I'm so proud to see where y'all do take this because y'all are going to do something. And I'm glad y'all have each other.
Thank you.
And it's been wonderful. It's been great. And you guys, like I always close out and say, check on your strong friends. A lot of times the ones who are the strongest in the background still can be the weakest in their situations. And stand up for your strong friends. Be there for yourself. Put yourself first. Make yourself a priority. Always ask for help. Always get out when you can. And you guys, if you ever feel like there's no one you can talk to, always know you can call 988. Always find your strength. You are meant to be here. You can survive things. You can do big things. Just give yourself credit. Give yourself the ability to do so and believe in yourself the way that you want others to believe in you. You are your voice, so use it and speak it. And this is until the next time, you guys. Stay strong.